Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Women Today.
Just call out my name.
You are listening to the Women Today podcast. Thanks for staying with us. We've been joined in the studio this afternoon, spent a fascinating hour with Michael Kewley, who's been telling us all about his spiritual journey and also his memoirs that he has recently released in book form. A fascinating read it is too. Michael, there was so much we didn't get to, and I felt myself just skipping over all of the notes because you have a fascinating story to tell, don't you? You really do.
I'm not sure. I don't feel that because it's just my life. One of my students in France said, because I was talking about the time I'd spent as a Buddhist monk, and he said, oh yes, but a monk's life is a special life. I said, but not when you're a monk, it's not. It's your ordinary life. You get up and do your monk life. So if people enjoy what I've written, I'm very happy for that, but I don't feel it's special. It's just sharing my story.
That's such a great line. People, you just get up and do your monk life. That's fantastic.
Well, that is how it was.
And we did, people who will look at the blog and also Facebook will see photos of yourself with someone who was very important to you. And also we didn't quite get time to really talk about him very much. Tell us about your teacher.
Well, that actually began on the Isle of Man. I met someone here who was connected to the Buddhist Association of Great Britain, or whatever it's called. And so through him and through these little magazines, I met a woman, an old lady in Scotland, who said, if you're looking for a teacher, I recommend this man. He's just arrived in England. And so I went to visit him. And our story began instantly. I knelt down I sat in front of this man, this Burmese Buddhist monk called Sayadaw Dhamma. And his first words to me were, if you want to be happy in your life, you have to cultivate a loving heart. And they were the missing part of the jigsaw of my Dhamma practice, of my spiritual practice. I'd already been practicing for 10 years, but until I heard those words, I knew it was not complete. And in the end, it's a cliche, but love is the answer. And so that became our joint journey together.
But in some ways, though, that sounds quite simple. You just be more loving. What is it that you learn over the course of, sort of 20, 30, 40 years that is different to just being a more loving person?
That love is not something you need to create. What you need to do is let go to the obstacle. Love is the fearless state. So you don't need to create the heart or love. You need to only let go of the fear, the obstacle to it. And that's the hard work, because we're so conditioned. If you look at your television and radio news, and it's all about fear. Be afraid of everything. Whereas actually, if you look around, the whole world, I suppose, people are living with kindness and sharing and generosity all the time, except that's not what's promoted because it doesn't sell products. But life is pretty good, really, for most of us. I know many people meet difficulty and suffering and animals, etc., etc. But once you let go of that idea of being afraid of everything and trying to control and trying to be certain of everything, then the heart just manifests like the sun rising in the morning, and you spontaneously feel comfortable in life. I don't know what the world can present, but I know I can deal with it. I know I can respond to it because the fear part falls away. So sometimes you get what you want, and that's wonderful. Enjoy it. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but we're grown-up people. We're not children anymore. So, we have to just accept that. But sometimes you get what you don't want. And that's a little bit more difficult to deal with. But nevertheless, this is our life. Life is not about you. You just make it about you. So once all those fear threads fall away, then we find ourselves waking up with a smile on our face in the morning. Something like that. I don't know what life can present, but I know I can deal with it. I know I can respond. So that's the fearless state.
See, it's fascinating because you've touched on a paradox, really, in that it seems like, see, the reason all of these sort of negative things seem to be promoted more, and you're absolutely right, than positive, like a friend said to me the other day, when I was concerned about another negative news story and concerned about, sort of people seemingly being more unkind to each other, or more, that term evil, whatever that means, whatever. And he said to me, you know what, Christy, actually there's a lot more good people than there are bad. It's just that,
I would support that.
Yeah, absolutely. But then if that's the case, why are we so seemingly absorbed by the negative? Because the only reason this news is populated with so much negativity is because, in a way, most of the human population, sadly, will follow it and do want to hear it in a way.
Yes, because fear is something that becomes overwhelming. It's connected to doubt, and everything is fine until you have one small doubt. Then it begins to crumble, and then you're full of fear and how to protect yourself and your family and your life, your work, and all these kinds of things. But it's only through fear that we can be manipulated. That's why it's such a useful tool. I'm not political in any way, but if anybody wants to manipulate you, they just find out your fear base. Losing your job or other religious groups, which is so popular now, the idea that we're all being threatened. I've been to India. I spent a long time, 10 years in India. I met hundreds and hundreds of Muslim people, as kind as anyone you could, and generous and caring as anyone you could imagine. Hindu people as well. The label we give ourselves doesn't have much value, actually. But it's because of the idea of, let's say, people in authority. They want to manipulate something, so they do it through fear. It's when you have fear, you can be manipulated. So in a strange way, the world doesn't want to see enlightened beings because they can't be manipulated. You have nothing I want. What on earth do you think you have that I want? I've been in your life. I did all those things. I'm not talking to you specifically, Christy. But, that world, that mundane world out there. And so the greatest gift we can give ourselves is freedom. Because you already have everything. If you want to be happy, it begins and ends with love, not the next car or the next relationship or the next job or fame or whatever. All those things have to be fought for, and they are all conditional, so what you have you can lose. But when the heart opens, because it's not a getting of something, it's a manifesting of your natural fearless state, then everything is fine.
So if, for instance, somehow the entire population of the world decided, yes, we are all going to go on this journey, and everyone became enlightened, what would that look like? Would the world still function?
Oh yes, of course it would, but it would function in a different way. There would be certainly things like animal cruelty would disappear immediately, and especially for things like cosmetics. It seems to be a strange thing to me. And that people would care and share with each other and let go of labels, to stand up and say, well, as I said, I'm a Muslim or I'm a Hindu or I'm a Buddhist or I'm a Christian. They don't mean anything. They're just labels. And then more subtly, I'm a man or I'm a woman. The idea that men and women are in some way unequal doesn't make any sense at all. Of course we're equal. We're two halves of the whole. So I actually, honestly, between you and me right now, I'm a recluse. I'm not exactly a hermit, but the world as it presents itself is not something that interests me at all. So I do stay very quiet. I live in a small monastery in the south of France, and I travel only to teach. And that's my life, encouraged, more than encouraged, but determined by my teacher. He said, it's not about you. It's about sharing this Dhamma so everyone can benefit. So I follow that path. And
what is next for you, Michael?
Oh, just more of the same. More travelling, more teaching. Well, I don't even like the word teaching. Just sharing this beautiful life that's available to everyone. You just have to want it enough. That's the point. You just have to want it enough. More than watching television, more than becoming involved in fighting with others and whatever. You just have to want to be free more than you want to be a prisoner. And that may sound strange, but we get very used to our prison cell and we'll argue to stay in it.
And you speak in the book very eloquently. It's a very beautiful moment about the moment of enlightenment for you. I wonder if now that you've sort of reached that point, do you feel like that's sort of it for you now, or do you feel like you're still learning? Do you feel there's still more for you to learn?
Oh, well, okay. The simple answer is no. When you know, you know. Mm-hmm. And I hope this doesn't sound too arrogant. It's not meant to sound arrogant, because it happens. You don't do it. It happens. But the basis for it happening is this 40 years of walking this path. So if you go on the mountain road in your car and you keep driving, you're going to arrive in Ramsey. Sooner or later, one way or another. So if you follow the path, then you arrive in one place. But it because of our individual tendencies, it may take some people longer than others, of course. And for me, 40 years, you can't say that's a rapid thing. But it was 40 years of one step after the other. And I think, I don't know, the journey is in the walking, really. And it never occurred to me, once I got past being 18 years old, it never occurred to me that enlightenment was something to even think about anymore. I just didn't want to be afraid. And I saw that this letting go had so much value. And then, as I say, I was told to teach, and then one thing led to another. But it was never about awakening. It was only ever about not being afraid.
Well, you mentioned the journey. It is a fascinating journey. I highly recommend the book, which is A Journey to Awakening, the Memoirs of a Dhamma Disciple, as written by Michael Kewley, my studio guest this afternoon. Just remind people, Michael, where they can find out more about what you do and about Pure Dhamma itself.
The easiest thing is from our website, which is www.puredharma.org. Pure Dharma is one word. And there we have all kinds of things, and a little video of my own teacher, filmed when he was on the Isle of Man. I brought him here many times.
How did the island react to him?
Very well. And I was the Buddhist chaplain at the prison, and the officers and the governor, they treated him with so much respect. When I would take him there. Oh, it was wonderful.
And was he in full robes as well?
Oh, yes, always, always. The only clothes he had were his robes. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, do go to the website there to find out more about Michael. And obviously you do retreats as well, and you do come backwards and forwards to the Isle of Man as well. And we really appreciate you taking the time to come and see us today.
Well, thank you very much.
Ain't it good to know you've got a friend? Oh yeah, you've got a friend.
Women Today. Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.